Hello, dear folks. Welcome to the show. Jack Zhao on the East-West show with G&E TV. It's a show that I take a lots of pride in being a host because it is not, to me, it is not just a show. It is a classroom. It is class I can go back on a day-to-day basis to learn everything new each single day, right? So that's one of the privilege. That's why I like it. But that doesn't mean I work for no money, but I still do. But it's still good, right? So today we're talking about, there's a news talking about the depreciation of RMB value as versus dollars, which is it's a trend already has been confirmed. And there is a lot of talk here among folks here about the influence. Should it be or should it not be, or well, does it or does it not influence the U.S. economy, our money in our wallet, on the street, in the market, whatsoever. So once again, to get to the point, I always bring my crying baby to the mother. So in this case, the mother being Mr. Steve Huntley, founder and CEO of Huntley Financial Advisory Group. So welcome, Steve, to the show.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me again.
All right, good. Well, next time, instead of saying that, how are you doing, we might want to say, how is your money doing? How about that? As a recommendation to start the show only.
Right.
With.
How is your money doing?
Yeah, my money is suffering. My money is having a hard time keeping its nose above water. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, joking. Well, recently we all heard about the trend of depreciating the RMB value as versus dollars. How do you take that? So is it something positive or is it something by nature negative?
You know, it's really interesting. The more you study in it, it was devalued by 3%, which you think, well, 3% is not a lot of money, but if you're talking about trillions of dollars that are being exchanged every day.
When we say 3%, we are talking about the whole value of RMB as 100%, right. Or are we talking about by increase extent, the extent of increase?
The extent of the increase is 3%. So that the value of the Chinese currency dropped 3% compared to the U.S. currency.
In other words, if you're talking about $100,
right?
So instead of 100, you're talking about 97.
$97. Yeah.
I see. And then as to U.S. dollars, instead of talking 100, you're talking about 103.
103,
am I right?
Right.
Ah, okay. All right, good.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
So what's happened is the Chinese economy is, as we were speaking about before, it's kind of going through some changes. And
by the way, another insertion. I'm kind of quick-minded person.
Okay.
Too quick.
Please.
We're too quick. 1%, 3% versus what? As compared to what time? Yesterday? A year ago? 5 years ago?
It was devaluated on the 19th of August, which was yesterday.
Okay.
As compared to the 18th of August. In other words, in one day, the Chinese government and the Chinese, well, not the Chinese government, but the Chinese banking system.
The banking system.
Government, the people who control the money, dropped the currency.
I see.
By 3%.
I see. All right. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
And so now what that actually means is that, and then also at the same time, if you look at the Chinese government gave some of the largest banks in China about I think it was almost 20 billion, the value of $20 billion that they want to pump up the economy, put it into the economy.
Okay.
So that what that causes the effect, if the currency from China, the RMB, was going up, that makes the exports from China more expensive.
Yeah,
does that
you're
make
right.
sense?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense to
and
me.
it makes imports from the United States or Latin America or Europe or wherever cheaper. So it makes and human nature is that we would.
Let me try to catch up a little slower than you thought, which means that in order to export $100 or RMB worth of cargo.
Right.
Now instead of putting up with 100, they have to do with 103.
That's right.
All right?
Yeah.
So that means the cost of exporting has increased by 3%.
Right.
And on the other hand, you're talking about importing from the United States, for example.
Right.
Instead of having to pay for $100, to pay the RMB dollars,
Right.
the actual amount of dollars are in RMB needed could be $97.
That's right.
I see. Okay. Okay. I'm a little slow-minded in this
So
case.
that trickles out into the actual price of the product or the service when either it arrives in China or it arrives in North America or Europe.
I see. On the larger scale, though, to two countries who are relatively balanced with their import and export, though, there's almost nothing hurt. Am I right?
Well, I wouldn't really even say that. There's always been a trade, depends on how you look at
deficit?
it. From the deficit, if you're looking at from the United States, surplus if you're looking at from China. China, traditionally, in the last 20 years or so, has been a very heavily exporting country.
Yes,
They
you're
take
right.
something in, they make something, and they send it
I
back
totally
out.
agree. Last Saturday, I went to Walmart to buy some picture frames. I bought small size, about 2 dozens of those small size frames, about 6 by 4, 4 by 6, how you name it, right? And I found 100% made in China.
Right. It's surprising what is made in China.
Okay.
'Cause they can-
Oh, they're good.
Yeah.
They're excellent frames.
Yeah. And they're exporting it to the United States. Now that frame, that same frame that you bought on Saturday
I see.
is going to cost the person who made it in China 3% more money.
3 more percent.
3% more to ship it, 3% more to make it. So that means that the frame that's made in the United States or Europe or Latin America is 3% cheaper.
Yeah, all right, all right. All right, on the other hand, when Chinese end up buying, say, iPhones or whatever, right? They are paying more because the depreciation.
Right.
Am I right?
They're purchasing it in Chinese
I
currency.
see.
And
I
matter of
see.
fact, last month in July, I just saw this morning, was the first month in the last, I think, 5 years when there actually had been a decline in the purchase of smartphones in the Chinese market. And maybe that has something to do with it.
Oh, that does have something.
Yeah,
3%
I'm sure it has
is still
something
big.
to do with it, yeah.
3% is still big money when you think about the iPhone value.
And if you're talking about a big purchase, if you're talking purchasing a car or a boat,
a boat, yeah, stuff like
something
that,
of that nature,
or
that's a lot. It can be a lot of money.
all right. On an even larger scale, though, when you talk about the trade balance or unbalance or deficit or whatever, red or black,
Right.
in between United States and China, how are we doing now?
Well, actually, the United States, when I say the United States, I mean North America and China, that's included, is really actually the deficit has been coming down because American goods are now perceived as being somewhat cheaper. Not as cheap as they have, but with this devaluation of the currency, it suddenly puts those imports in an advantage. Maybe not for today, but when you're looking at a month from now, 6 weeks down the road, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But to take the status quo, though,
Right.
China exports more than import.
That's true.
In between the two countries,
That's
right? In other words, China will benefit more from the decision rather than the United States.
China, the reason that they did that is because they were feeling in the government and whoever controls the fiscal policy in China that Chinese goods were beginning to start to float higher. And if they're starting to float higher, that makes them less competitive when they're exported. So and plus China, you know, like I said, like you know, we were talking about before, is going through this change where they're trying to get away from. It's very difficult to do. I'll say that unequivocally. Where you go from an exporting country to more of a consumer-driven country. Like the United States is a very consumer-driven economy.
Well, of course, still going larger
Yeah.
to look at the picture, though. When you talk about the developing period,
Right.
especially in the initiating period,
Right.
right? You're talking about making your economy more exporting oriented,
Right.
right? Now you have quite a bit increase of your domestic market consumers.
That's right.
Right. You really have to consider to make your market kind of an economy consumer driven rather than exporting driven, right?
Very, very true.
It's the right direction to move.
That's right. I mean, China will continue to export. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
It
sure,
will
sure,
in the
sure,
future.
sure, sure.
So will the United States, for that matter. But with the rise of the Chinese middle class, the influx of wealth that's come into the country in the last 20 years or so,
All right.
it makes a consumer class. People will say, you know, they want to have things. They want to be able to purchase a television or a car or you know, or a nice house or whatever. You know, instead of just struggling to make ends meet, they suddenly say, wow, you know, I have this money, I want to be able to spend it. And that what drives the economy. So people will start buying, maybe they'll buy, now they'll start looking at the price. Is the price cheaper from the Chinese-made object, or is it cheaper from the object that's imported to the United States?
You're right. And also, on the other hand, though, you're talking about an incentive. This depreciation might be an incentive to the United States export.
Right.
Because to the manufacturers of the United States, they will think about the benefit. Let's do more export, right?
Right. They will think about China is a huge market, huge, and they're thinking, wow, you know, I can sell
huge,
more, you know, Coca-Cola in China now. I can sell more whatever, and American companies are thinking, wow, you know, even though they have a relationship with China, they see the opening to sell more products into the Chinese market.
Well, speaking of the product, though, I need some definition to clarify or to verify. For products, for example, like hamburgers, like McDonald's hamburgers or Burger King hamburgers, right? Or like a Pizza Hut, sort of stuff like that. So once sold on the supermarket, on the U.S. market, on China market, though, are they considered foreign or are they considered domestic?
It's considered foreign.
Foreign?
Like if you go to McDonald's in Beijing, that's considered an export from the United States to China. And when you buy that hamburger, that whatever that costs, $2 or whatever it is, that counts as an export to the United States.
Yeah, that answers my question exactly. In other words, if there is an increase of 10% of hamburger sales in the China market, though, and that reverses by 10%.
Right.
Am I right?
Right. So so in those particular fields, like in the fast food business or whatever, you know, the commodities are being exported from the United States. Well, it's potatoes and paper plates and beef and all that stuff. It's not produced in China.
I see. All right. My dear audience, today I'm touching a field that I'm so green at. Well, I know everything except the money. All right, don't laugh at me, please. That's me. All right. So you know me long enough, you will know that. Okay, my dear audience, let's take a short moment now. When we come back, we'll still keep finding or keep digging in the area where I'm so green. I'm all wet behind my ears in this whole area. So we'll be right back, please.